Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. So today's episode is on the Super Maelstrom, which is the middle path tack shooter, along with the Blade Maelstrom and the Blade Shooter. And this is a very strange tower, so let's get right into it. The Blade Shooter is going to be like a starter / early game Pierce tower. Blade Maelstrom is more of like a ceramic rush counter, so like 78, 63, that kind of stuff. And the Super Maelstrom's a mid / late game damage tower. So let's take a look at the stats. There isn't really a whole lot going on with the Blade Shooter. It just like shoots blades and does damage. I guess that's pretty much all it does. The Maelstrom, on the other hand, its main attack is the same. It doesn't really do much, but has the ability that starts shooting blades everywhere for a short amount of time. Has a ton of pierce and does a pretty good amount of damage, but it's only in this very concentrated amount. And then the Super Maelstrom, it's just like that, but it's more damage, has longer uptime, more pierce, just increase the stats in general. Not really anything too complicated when it comes to the stats on these upgrades, but anyways, you can pause it and see those stats. Now let's take a look at the cross paths. So for the cross paths, it's a lot more simple than the bombs. I remember having to explain all of that in the comments again, but the 230 on the tier 3 is probably good. And then for more duration, you can do 042 or 052. And then for a more concentrated single target burst, instead of doing bottom path, you would just keep the top path and do 240 and 052. But generally, I find the best is the 052 for the Super Maelstrom. The tier 4, honestly, I was testing out. I couldn't really find like much of a difference, but when it comes to the tier 5, the 052 is way better. Just having that better uptime is so much more impactful than having a shorter burst, because the 250 is really short on its uptime. And as a tower that does nothing without that uptime, it's kind of a big deal. So anyways, let's take a look at the support. For the tier 3, you're not going to really support that. That's a starting tower. But for the tier 4, you're also typically not going to have a support. You typically will just have this guy. If you're having a tier for the sake of the tier 4 for the sake of the tier 4, it's just going to be to counter rushes of ceramics, like round 63 there, as you saw, just ate that up. But for the tier 5, this is where you're going to start supporting it and having stuff with it. So you're going to want at least a Berserker Brew. Sometimes you can buy Stimulant if you really need that, but not really worth it all the time. I'll just keep it with a Berserker Brew for these examples. We could get an Imbrit for more damage. Pat Fusty does a lot more damage, great combination. And then a Primary Mentoring does one really big thing. It decreases the cooldown of the Super Maelstrom, which is a pretty big thing. Primary Expertise increases the cooldown even more, but for its price, it's not really worth it. And you'll also need some sort of MIB or MIB skip to take out DDTs with this if you're going to be using it particularly for the late game. But anyways, it's really strong with Pat Fusty and this combination. You also could get something like Glue Storm, maybe, if you're going to be having another tower that will work well with Glue Storm. Otherwise, I just recommend keeping it with MIB. But anyways, if you will notice, you can use all of these damage debuffs or damage additives, and the Super Maelstrom will absolutely shred. For it being such a cheap tower, it can do an insane amount of damage. Now, this obviously comes with a huge caveat. It doesn't have a lot of uptime. Like on round 95, we can use its ability. It's going to shred when the ability's up, but when the ability's down, it's not doing anything. So you're really going to have to pair it with something, but when it comes to the heavy rounds in particular, it will actually do quite a lot. So it will destroy most around 98 with this whole crew, and this setup right here is like actually pretty cheap. And it also has a lot of support that might help another tower, so just pair it with something else and it's going to do very well. Maps that it's good on are maps with overlapping bend stuff, basically where the tack shooters are good on. As usual, it's a tack shooter, so it should be good on a tack shooter map. And if you don't know, you want to keep it underneath the track, so its top will be over the track and doing concentrated damage, as opposed to something like this spot. This is not good for the tack shooters. Don't put it here. As you can see, it doesn't even like, well, it barely kills some of the stuff. So let's take a look at some of the examples of the objectives. It's going to be getting Maelstrom for round 63, Super Maelstrom for mid game, and Super Maelstrom as a late game additive. For its cheap price, you can throw it in a lot of setups, but this is a very strange tower. So a lot of these examples, well, the examples that I have are kind of strange. The first one, I'm just going to bring Quincy, and we're just going to be throwing it to deal some damage, help out in the mid game. Just spam that ability, and then we'll be able to get some other towers up. It's a very cheap tower, so you can get it fairly reliably early on in the game, but it's kind of odd. So anyways, for the start, I just have Quincy, and I'm going to get this blade shooter right there in a good spot. If it's in a good map for tacks, the blade shooter can do very well in the early game. I remember I was talking about how the 052 is doing better. So if you're going to be going for Super Maelstrom, you want to get 052. I completely forgot about that in this example. So keep that in mind. I would have gotten 032 on the tack, but unfortunately I forgot that I'm going for the Super Maelstrom. So a bit of a mistake there, and I kind of only realized that until like after, when I put the recording into the video editing. So anyways, I go for that, and as you saw, the Maelstrom, it only does like a very concentrated small amount of damage, and it's down for the rest of the time. So we're not going to be going for that Maelstrom early. Instead, I'm going to just be going for like my reactor here. I'm going to use that to get rid of a lot of the camo, and then I'm going to be getting a destroyer up. Now this map is also very odd because the placements are forced to be so separated out. Normally I'd have like all this crew under a village and stuff. Fortunately I can't get it there, but because it's so easy and it loops around, that's not really going to be an issue here. I'm going to be having, I guess, more of a realistic example later on where I'm going to be adding the Super Maelstrom in as a late game damage tower. So yeah, I'm going to be getting my Maelstrom up, I guess, now that I have this reactor to make it more consistent. I can actually beat the mob up with the Maelstrom ability. It's very concentrated, even though that it's, I guess, better against like the big ceramic rushes. It still can take out some mobs when the ability's active. But I get Destroyer up too. You could have gotten Destroyer up for round 40 also, that would have worked. But it's, I guess, cooler. And then from that, I can get a Super Maelstrom up really early. And now this is a bit odd because as you can see, you can use it. It will like shred all this stuff when it's up, but you kind of have to spam this button a lot, and it's like an annoying amount a lot. And when it's on a harder map, you kind of have to spam it to survive. So you can use it in the mid game, but if you're not going to be like willing to just hit the button a lot for maybe like 10 minutes straight, I wouldn't really recommend it, and instead going a more simple route, a lot more effective, which I guess isn't the route that I'm taking in this example. So that's kind of a heads up. Kind of annoying thing, like can't really do much, but it's very cheap. You can get it in the mid game very effectively and just hit the button a lot. It will take out the mid game, but kind of annoying. In the rest of this, I kind of just sped it up because not much was going on. I got some other damage towers. I got a super brittle. Debuffs will really increase its damage, make it go insane. Also, it's going to help out with that carrier flagship a lot, but I just use this button in the late game. It's just going to beat up, like round 98 is gone with the ability, round 99 is gone, round 100 I'll use Quincy's ability, all of that will be gone too. So it's effective, but just kind of annoying. And then for this round 63 example that I showed, you can very easily use one Maelstrom and a hero level 10 that will take out a ceramic rush. There are many heroes, Sai, Quincy, Gwen, all those guys. You can use a Maelstrom, hero, Maelstrom, round 63 is gone. So that's a pretty interesting approach if you are having a setup that struggles with round 63 a lot. You can just use that and it will be disappearo. Now let's take a look at this next example, and this I guess is a more realistic, more not so I'm gonna have to press this button for 10 minutes straight friendly approach. And this is kind of the idea of using the Super Maelstrom in a different way, but it's gonna be taking the Super Maelstrom and putting it in the late game
to kind of nail out some of those really hard rounds. I guess it will have effect on every round because you can just constantly spam the button with the 052 and primary mentoring, all that stuff. But on rounds in particular, like round 98, it's just gonna have a lot of effect. And when I have another tower that's kind of very generalized damage, cleanup, that tower is gonna be able to clean up whatever the super Maelstrom leaves behind. So I'm gonna be bringing Pat. I'm going to be doing cargo. Pat's unfortunately not really going to be doing anything for this early game, so I'm just going to have that triple guns, going to alk buff that's going to do the rest, and I'm going to be pairing this with Spirit of the Forest. There's a lot of other very good early mid-game towers. I mean, not mid-game towers, what am I saying? Very good like cleanup towers that will work in the late game, like Bloons Solver maybe. Biggest one, kind of a weird example, but I guess that would work out too. So I'm just going to be going for a Spirit of the Forest. Very cool tower. It's going to work very well with the strategy. In fact, I would actually recommend doing this. And I'm going to bring Pat, because Pat with Super Maelstrom is absolutely insane, and you will see that later. So Pat's Rally Roar, just have it close. It will Rally Roar, do a lot of damage. Not only that, but Pat's Slap is very effective too, because it will kind of bush things together and it will like clump them all up so that the Super Maelstrom will be able to affect all of those balloons and just shred them all together. And then when it's down, the stun will also kind of keep things at bay, so things aren't just going to be leaking straight past when the Super Maelstrom is down. So I'm gonna just have, I guess, that Maelstrom up. We'll be able to use it when I need it, and like tricky rounds like round 63, 78, use it for those rushes. And then I'm just gonna get some other towers to push me to what would be the Spirit of the Forest. I'll get that first, so I'll actually have the Spirit of the Forest doing damage. So I just have like Elite Defender, Pat, the Jungle Bounty, and the Maelstrom gonna be doing all the work, and that's gonna be able to, with the abilities being used, push me all the way to the Spirit of Forest. Kind of a tricky map in some cases. Some towers really don't work very well, and if you're only used to like doing the same exact strategy on this map, you might have a little bit of a hard time. But anyways, this is doing pretty well. It would be a lot more effective if I could have Pat slapping the Bloom lane, but unfortunately can't have that, but that's alright. I was able to get the Spirit of the Forest, and now I should be doing very good. I have a lot of just like quick damage, and my Elite Defender is going to be doing some good single target, and also they can clean up pretty well, so it can do like single target and clean up. Very interesting combination. That's not something that you'll see a lot. But anyways, after that I can get my Super Maelstrom. I can get some damage debuffs, so I'll get the Embrittlement, I'll get a Mob Glue to slow things down. Everybody needs Mob Glue. Primary Mentoring, reduce the cooldown. I get the Stim on that. We're going to be alk buffing with the Stim. We'll have the Stim on the Super Maelstrom and on Pat Fusty. Alk buff on Pat Fusty is very good, so with the Stim both of those guys will be buffed. Very effective. And now I can just use that when tough waves are coming in. So that wave of DDTs came in, use the ability, they're gone. Those ZOMGs are coming in, use the ability, they're gone too. You can use Rally Roar with the Super Maelstrom and everything disappears. That was fine, all those DDTs. I'm going to grab a First Strike. You might have noticed that on the top. Round 100, I will need that. On some easier maps, this probably could just beat up round 100. With the Roar and the debuffs and the Super Maelstrom, it has pretty good single target damage. Maybe not the greatest without it, as you saw there, but on shorter maps, it's going to be a little bit of an issue. However, round 98, look at that, just deleted. Use the ability and it's gone. Round 99 too, maybe a Sabo would have been nice. I did not have a Sabo because round 99 could rush you a little bit if you don't have the ability up, but use the First Strike at the end. Shorter maps, so I'll need that, and very cool win. Awesome tower. Bit strange to use though.
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!